Over here in the top right corner from Team Evil Genius's raid call, it is Chris Loranger, also known as HuK. At one point, the most famous StarCraft 2 player in the world back when he was, actually just a year ago, and last November he was winning MLG October, and everyone can remember how big of a moment that was for a foreigner to win MLG, for a first time to have a two-time MLG champion. HuK, a year later, still trying to regain some of that form, but he's been looking sharp. Let's see what he can do against this player in the bottom left corner from Team MVP. It is DRG, the OSL runner-up. Like Ben said, one of the most successful Zergs in StarCraft 2 history.
He's a beast, and he's always so fun to watch. Very fast, very aggressive. He plays a brand of Zerg that is kind of hard to pull off. He's not the kind of guy that is going to sit back and turtle behind spine crawlers and make infestors and broodlords all day. DRG loves to be in your face. He loves to be aggressive. He loves to make you make mistakes, and that always lends itself to very exciting Zerg gameplay. Right now he's sitting at just 14 supply, hasn't thrown down the spawning pool yet, but just now got the money for it. And in fact, Dan makes another drone, so we might be seeing Hatch first here at a DRG.
Wow, Hatch first in ZVP. DRG has kind of been exploring some options though, although I feel like when I watched his finals against Rain, it's just that he didn't have necessarily an answer for strong macro type players. You know, DRG can hold the all-ins, he can hold the aggressive pushes. But we saw a side of DRG that was just completely dominated, and he looked very distraught because he practiced very hard for OSL. In fact, he delayed some of his NASL games because he said explicitly, I want to win OSL really badly. I'm wondering what he's looking for in ZVP nowadays, because that kind of loss when you were up one game and then go 4 or 0-4 has to reset your mind a lot. Yeah,
that was an incredible series. Rain showing a brand of Protoss that I don't know that we've seen ever. Just taking it to the late game and not caring and winning anyway. I'm not ready to say though that that Rain solved the matchup at all. We did see Rain go on to MLG and struggle against quite a few Zergs there, and I don't want to take anything away from Rain at all, but I don't think that DRG losing to Rain 1-4 is indicative of DRG's skill level. I would even argue that if they were to play again tomorrow, that it would be a closer series, maybe even a DRG win.
Well, well, maybe that could happen. I would love to see DRG and Rain be very successful, especially as WCS Asia is coming up and Rain has an, WCS World Championships is coming up. Rain, of course, one of the favorites to win that.
The Battle.net World Championships.
HuK actually sees this Overlord. This is a huge pick if he's able to get it early on. HuK already trying to supersede that and just go ahead and walk. This is a very early hatchery, by the way. This was planted at around the 3:30 mark, Ben.
Yep, he went hatch first into 15 pool into a very, very aggressive third hatch, which is wild because he did it blindly. And HuK is just, he's gone one gate expand, but man, if HuK were to do some kind of crazy 4-gate, I don't know how in the world DRG expects to hold that, given that he has no Zergling speed, he has no tech, he has a very hampered economy here. He's only at 21 drones because he went for the very fast 3 bases. DRG is using the greediest opening that you can really imagine. Just you sit at your desk and think of, how can I be super greedy? And I think the only build out there that's more greedy than what DRG has done is 2 hatch before spawning.
Yeah, which we have seen here and there. But HuK, of course, likes doing this gateway expansion. He tried doing this against Morrow also in his PvZ in this division. Now HuK's been able to do some pressure. He walls off very nicely, preventing any Zerglings from being able to get any scouting information while poking the Queen. If he can snipe the Queen, it'd be a very nice win, just hampering early production.
Yep, if he gets the Queen, he's he's loving life, basically. His sole objective here with these initial Stalkers is to kill a couple Creep Tumors, kill a Queen if possible. But as we can see, DRG does have enough Lings out now that HuK's going to have to basically give up on that dream. He's going to go back home. DRG knows it. He's going to make a few more Lings. He's even getting Ling speed. He's making quite a few Zerglings, Dan. He's going to have 25 Lings out on the map. Not mining any additional gas, though, so I don't think we're going to see any crazy busts or anything of the sort, but we might see him just throw the Lings at the wall and see if he can get through.
Yeah, also considering that HuK also delayed the Forge for a considerable amount of time, so Zerglings are easily able to poke in and poke out.
This makes sense. DRG is going to use these Lings to open up these rocks so that he's not vulnerable in his third base to aggression. We can see HuK is sending a probe out to scout, and he'll probably plant a couple of pylons. HuK's got 4 gates already. He could easily throw down a couple more and get hyper-aggressive.
Yeah, and that's why the early Lings I feel like is very smart from DRG, seeing a gateway expansion of some kind without some kind of forge. Now HuK, he's hiding a probe here in the very corner of the third base. And that's going to be very sneaky as well. HuK always very crafty with his probe movements. And now moving out to the middle of the map. DRG, of course, sees this. Only 4 sentries, but still, that's an alarming amount of units. And Darygu's going to start a couple of spine crawlers at respective bases.
Yeah, crouching probe, hidden pylon, as there is pylon building up in the third base of Darygu. A couple of zealots being warped in outside of that third base. So DRG is going to have stuff to deal with on both sides. Ling's going to try to run around, and where are they going to go? He's going to just counterattack? That's not going to work.
Well, bait out some force fields. That's good enough for now. But the Queen did drop at the third. Lots of Zerglings are streaming in. HuK trying to drop some force fields, but Darygu just disengages while the Spine Crawler's about to finish. And I think DRG's even transferring one of his Queens ready for a transfuse. This is a very nice hold thus far. Minimal losses, really, for DRG.
Minimal losses for DRG, but also minimal investment from HuK thus far, and he's done a great job of keeping Darygu from building drones. If you look at the Workers tab, it's 37 probes to 43 drones, so economically it's pretty close, and DRG doesn't have a Roach Warren, Dan. He doesn't have a Baneling Nest. He can only make Zerglings. Now, HuK has foregone the Forge, so he does not have +1. These Lings are still going to be very effective against these Protoss units, but I like a lot of what we're seeing so far out of HuK.
Ooh, DRG setting a potential flank. HuK's been doing great thus far, but he's also warping his Zealots. That's also very key because he realized a surround could come in. HuK also not using force fields unless he has to. Great patience, as normally the old HuK would just kind of throw force fields haphazardly, but now he's been showing good patience. Now trapping off some of the Zerglings. Very well done from both sides. DRG getting the flank, but HuK able to show great patience.
Yep, great patience from both these players, neither willing to overcommit to anything. And everything's still very even. 94 supply to 91 supply, 45 probes to 39 drones. Actually, HuK pulling ahead economically. They're another big fight down here below the natural expansion of DRG. A lot of Zealots are going to die, but they're going to kill a lot of Zerglings in the process. The problem for HuK, though, is what is going to protect these sentries. He is going to have to back up, throw down some very defensive force fields, but that's going to mean saying goodbye to this pylon.
Yeah, very nice play from Darygu as well. Still making a lot of Zerglings, not that many drones. In fact, HuK's been able to probe up and get a pretty substantial lead through his entire time. And Darygu, he doesn't necessarily know what HuK's following this up on. He's just adding more gateways slowly. No form of tech, really, from HuK. An attempted Zergling bust, and HuK forced to use some of his probes to pull, but he is also stabilized back at home. So everything still looks pretty good from HuK, and he's economically sitting very nicely.
More Lings going to come poke at the natural of HuK, but there are sentries behind that wall now, so he is pretty safe. Income tab shows us that DRG is still sitting on just 38 drones. He's got a ton of Lings out on the map if he can catch this army of HuK in transit. And I think he's going to spot it, Dan. This could be really huge.
Yeah, surrounding a couple stalkers, but realizing the sentries is a bigger bounty. Although the Zerglings do manage to get picked off here, there's still lots of Zerglings preventing them, or wanting to prevent the sentries being able to return back home. Another surround, potentially. He does get it. HuK has to use more force fields. Although he does save some of the sentries, a few of them do get picked off, and Darygu, wow, so many Zerglings have been invested into this. Hasn't really been able to drone. And HuK, as long as he can get a couple more good, solid engagements with here, actually not even using any more energy because he doesn't have any. Does manage to stabilize, but if we look again at the income tab, HuK has been able to maintain a strong probe count throughout all of this aggression.
Yeah, I love the way HuK did that. Now, DRG has done a pretty good job as well. He hasn't been able to really vault ahead on the worker tab, but he did keep himself alive. He did secure not just his third base, but he's taken a fourth base now. And HuK's still on only 2 bases, Dan, and he doesn't really have any tech. He's thrown down his first Twilight Council now. His upgrades are, he's at +1 attack, so these Lings are going to need something if they're going to continue trading with the Zealots. But Roach Warren's down, Roach Speed's on the way. Darygu's starting to round out his sort of tech tree. And very soon we're going to be seeing a big swell of Roaches. I would love to see Darygu make 10 or 15 more drones, but I can understand certainly that he feels nervous against what he's seen out of HuK.
DRG still moving out across the map, trying to see if he can poke. He wants to get a good sense of the Protoss third as well. So Ben, what do you think? Do you think who's ahead, or do you think they're even based off the early trades?
I think it's pretty even. HuK doesn't have the luxury of fantastic upgrades. He doesn't have the luxury of tech. Darygu doesn't have the luxury of a huge economy, but we do see 13 drones going down now, so he's going to start vaulting ahead. So both these guys kind of made sacrifices in their early game in order to get here into the mid game. So we've got them on pretty even footing. I think DRG is going to start lengthening his advantage. But as I say that, we see HuK warping in a lot of Zealots down on the other end of the map. So HuK, aware of the fact that he might need to deal some damage, need to slow down this this explosive Zerg economy of Dongragu.
And Dongragu does have Spines kind of in position, still in the middle of rooting here. Although now he's able to get a pretty good position, surround the Zerglings, able to thwart the aggression. More Zells are coming in. HuK, is this really the engagement you want? Although he does trap a lot of Zerglings, there's still lots of units in production. And DRG, wow, that's a lot of Zealots. Actually didn't even see another warp in from
Those
HuK.
Zealots have +1. DRG can't hold this position right now. He doesn't have enough roaches, and his Lings are not going to be very helpful at all. He's going to have to back off. Great force fields by HuK. He's going to catch all of these roaches and a queen. That's going to help him immensely. DRG still with 134 supply, but where is it?
It's in production. He's got 15 roaches on the way, 30 of it. He's also making a huge spine crawl wall at the third base, trying to prevent any kind of movement up the ramp. Although, this is actually really cool because you don't actually see too much utility out of Zealots in Protoss versus Zerg, trapping some more roaches. And roaches could kite Zealots hypothetically, but with force fields trapping their exit. Although, look at the Spine Crawlers do a massive amount of damage as well.
Spine Crawler is fantastic against everything out of the gateway. And this will force HuK to disengage, at least for now. Supply-wise, almost surprisingly, DRG up 40 supply, forcing HuK back. He lost his third base, but he didn't lose any drones. He lost some Zerglings, he lost some roaches, even lost some queens, but the drone count untouched allows DRG to continue to mine a lot of resources. So he can produce very freely off of 3 bases, certainly when he's producing cheap units like Zerglings and roaches. His infestor tech's also very, very close, so HuK's got to be so careful not to overextend and not to get caught by some big fungals.
Yeah, I mean, fungals can change the game completely, especially since Dongragu has a pretty good amount of creep spread, able to get those infestors in and out. Now you see HuK immediately going for Templar Archives, which is pretty standard as a follow transition, especially if you sense infestors out to the field. But he's also getting a quick Stargate, and also trying to expand. He's doing a lot at one time, Ben. It's going to be tough. HuK can do it. He can defend all fronts if he does it correctly, but it's still very challenging, especially in the light of Dongragu, who loves doing multi-prong attacks.
Yeah, but the beauty of this situation for HuK is that it's Entombed Valley. So the fourth base is going to spread him out, sure, but in all reality, he's only got to hold this sort of area in front of his main 3 bases and this fourth. I don't think that he's going to have that much difficulty. At least not if he can get up to about 150 supply, 160 supply. I guess right now this is definitely a scary point in the game as we've got a Dongragu nearing a max. He's getting his hive, he's getting his spire, and he's bringing out that critical infestor tech. Man, Dongragu is so good at expanding. Like, that sounds like such a basic thing to say, but he is always taking bases, and that's one of the hardest things to do. It's very easy as a Zerg player to say, all right, I got my 3 bases, I'm just going to chill, but DRG never just chills. He's always continuing to expand.
I can agree more, Ben. I think Dongragu's expansion timings are awesome, especially in light of all the aggression, how he's able to take a 4th base immediately after HuK's pressuring. Now we do see Dongragu does intend on forcing the cancel on the 4th base. Lots of infested Terrans, not even really utilizing fungal. Just wants his next to go down, or maybe he can base some of the units, the sentries forward for some fungals. The 4th base does end up dropping. That's a nice win. And Dongragu, did he lose a lot of units in the process? Yeah, he did commit a lot of his roaches. And the Stalkers are on hot pursuit, want to catch some of those infestors.
Yeah, they're going to get a couple of infestor kills, but for the most part, I think Dongragu is going to be okay with that. He slowed down HuK's economy, but HuK is pushing forward, and this is a scary-looking push. 160 supply of Blink Stalkers, Sentries, and Immortals, and whoa, HuK, or Dongragu is going to have to land some pretty key fungals. Does throw a couple down. Force Field's being cast very, very nicely. HuK may be catching the perfect anti-timing here as DRG is reeling a little bit, trying to remax, but he's struggling. He's got so much supply in production. He doesn't have his infestors. Where are your infestors, Dongragu?
A couple of them got picked off, and the other ones are kind of scattered across. Now starting to spawn as well. DRG trying to wait for everything. That's clumping up perfectly, although HuK does a massive blink trying to confront the army. That also could be a death sentence because it's giving the roaches the perfect arc and no longer sectioning off just the ramp. Fungal's able to lash down on all the Stalkers. Oh no, HuK just barely overstepping his bounds. As a result, loses the huge core of Stalkers. That's the crux for the army.
That was a pivotal moment in this game. HuK blinking forward with everything he had and just clumping up perfectly for the Infestors on the high ground. I don't think he realized how many Infestors Dongregu actually had. And just like that, a situation that looks scary for Dongregu turns into a situation that is awful for HuK. He may barely be able to hold this this fourth base, but I don't know how in the world he's going to survive against the impending Broodlord tech switch.
I mean, HuK, I mean, you can see exactly his rationale as well, because he fought on so many positions where he could have gotten fungled on the ramp, and he didn't see any more Infestors. It's just that the Infestors that popped immediately happened to be in the right place for DRG, and then lashed down everything else as well. Now, DRG is on the counter-offensive. He doesn't have necessarily his high tech established. He's using this to buy time, but if you can trade efficiently, that's also great too.
Yep, a lot of Infested Terrans going down for DRG. He's going to continue to play very aggressively. HuK trying to use some very cute Warp Prism and High Templar play to feed back those Infestors, but I just don't think it matters. We've got a nearly maxed out Zerg against HuK, who is only 100 supply, and he is rapidly dwindling. Reinforcements continuing to stream in. HuK's microing for his dear life. But I don't really know how he can sustain this kind of gameplay, Dan. He's running out of money, he's running out of bases, and Dongregu is only getting stronger.
Yeah, I mean, DRG's been playing outrageous this game, keeping up his macro. Fourth base drops yet again. HuK doesn't even have the luxury of adding more gas to replenish his army, as Dongragu's been pooling gas for some time. Warp Prism gets immediately shut down as well. HuK trying to do whatever he can to bring back himself into the game. But I think the Infestor count still stays high, which means the Broodlords will have nice support. HuK doesn't have any presence of map control other than this Warp Prism, and I think Dongragu is he's just moments away from being able to secure the win.
Yeah, everything looks great for DRG right now. 185 supply. First Corruptors popping out. He's actually building drones right now. I suppose he'll just use those, recycle them, turn them into spine crawlers. But everything really looking strong in Camp DRG. Even sending out a big line of changelings, just trying to scout everything going on in HuK space, get a feel for the timings, get a feel for exactly what he's playing against.
Yeah, DRG being cute as well, just burrowing not just a Zergling, but also a Roach that's burrowed, which actually regenerates. So if it was just an Observer, you would have to bring in a couple more units. This has given Dongregu enough time to establish his Broodlord army, as well as get a couple more upgrades to increase his strength. That's the scary thing, was that DRG's army was only at 1-1 this entire time. And now he's finally at 2-2 at 24.5 minutes in the game. Dongregu fighting pretty inefficiently, but able to be on 5 bases before HuK can even establish 4 has been just, I guess, the dominance of his macroeconomic play.
Yep, here comes DRG once again, catching this Warp Prism out in the middle of the map and just moving forward with that army. He's got Zerglings, Infestors, Roaches, and Broodlords. Nice feedback there from HuK, and a good Storm landing. That's going to slow down the advancing Zerg army, at least for now. But when the Broodlords come to play, I feel like HuK's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, that's that is one of the most common forms of controversy right now, especially in this matchup. Infested Terrans going out. We've seen good Storm play be able to fight this army effectively, but HuK's army supply isn't that big. We can see the units, only about 25 Stalkers and nothing else, just a few Zealots. There is a Mothership out into the field. HuK somehow managed to squeeze it out, but doesn't even have enough energy for a Vortex. DRG catching it with the Fungal as well. The Broodlords able to zone off the Stalkers. If they blink forward, it is a death trap considering how many Infested Terrans there are. The Mothership is about to drop. HuK's final moments in this game. Is he going to be able to pull any kind of miracle? I don't think so, as HuK will try one last attack, but there are a lot of sieging units at his fourth base.
Yeah, DRG just has everything that he needs. HuK's going to try to aggressively blink up on top of those Broodlords, but it does not matter. GG gets called, and Dongregu with a nice play there in game number 1. We got a little bit of a highlight out of that first game. Replay of DRG holding off the HuK counterattack. Look at how scary this is for Dongregu. HuK's pushing forward. He's got so many sentries, but the key moment, that big blink, everything is clumped up, and the Infestors just doing amazing things from the high ground.
Yeah, able to work on the inside of the Stalker pack, and while the Roaches work on the outside. It just basically was an entire mass destruction at one point. No opportunity to blink. And, of course, the icing on the cake was that he was all on creep. So even if he did blink out, wouldn't be able to escape very easily. Roaches be able to pick him off very quickly. Ben, overall, what did you think? Do you think if HuK didn't necessarily commit to that, he could have actually killed Dongregu? It seemed like it was a nice pre-hive timing. I mean, DRG didn't really have any hard-hitting units other than Roaches and Fungal.
I don't know, Dan. I think I would have liked to have seen HuK just use that as an opportunity to deny a base and then back off and continue to tech up versus trying to overcommit like he did. It's a very difficult judgment call to make, and it's almost the only reason that we can say it was the wrong decision is because he lost the game. But it was a very strong-looking attack, and at moments I thought Dongragu might have been dead. That game is brought to you guys by Stamps.com. Hassle-free postage from your PC. Head over to nasl.tv/p/stamps for a special offer on some postage. So you can send a letter to Dan. Tell him how much you adore his glasses.
You can send me some bacon also in the mail.
Yep, in the mail.
Awesome. I am very close to 0, although I was told that that's been stopped. The valve has been closed. No one is able to give me bacon anymore.
You
is that
can't
true?
eat 60 pieces of bacon in a day, Dan.
Yes, but I can refrigerate some. I can freeze them and save them for a later day.
No, that bacon is for everybody.
Oh, it's okay. I can eat a lot of bacon, Ben. I have a big tummy.
All right.
I have a big heart and a big tummy, Ben, and a big mouth. I'm just big everywhere.
We're going to take a break, guys. Game number 2, HuK versus Dongragu when we get back.